The Hogsty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome to the Hogsty. It's DC's leading source for all things Redskins in the NFL. Got a lot to talk about today as the NFL draft is over. We got to discuss the picks, plus our very own Jamual Forrest attended the Redskins draft party, and we'll hear his report from that. Plus, we got user polls and the usual assortment of goodies. Don't go away. It's the Hogsty. Cut. And we're back in 3, 2, 1. All right. Hey, everybody. Remember me? I'm Sean, fresh back from a trip across Nevada and Arizona. Absolutely beautiful, devastatingly dry. Great time. I'm feeling refreshed, back in the saddle, ready to go. How are you guys doing, Mr. Jamal and Mr. Steve?
I'm doing pretty good. How was your, I just want you guys to know what he didn't tell you was he wandered for 21 days in the deserts. So that's the reason why he was gone so long. He was walking. He finally got back last night, so he's a trooper for being here this morning.
I think that's not far from the truth, because I called Sean at one point during the middle of that trek, and he's whispering. He goes, "I'm on a tour bus. I can't talk." What are you on you're on a tour bus in the middle of the desert in Arizona? Okay, whatever thrills you.
It was actually. It was crazy. I won't bore you guys with too many stories of my trip, but I will say, got to go on a wonderful tour of some Navajo reservation land and saw a canyon. But it sort of broke the illusion that our Navajo tour guide whipped out my phone and was teaching me things about my cell phone that I had no idea how it even worked. Like, she knew all the settings. She knew everybody's different phone about how to get the best pictures. It was totally crazy. You expect this earthy, very grounded person. Instead, way better with technology than I was.
It's not exactly out of Dancing with Wolves.
Exactly. It's not, it's a new world we're living in. It's a totally new world. But no, it was great. I missed you guys. Missed being on the show, but it was a wonderful trip. Saw some beautiful sights, and happy to be back now. And boy, what a show to come back to, guys, because we've had the draft, and we have some major stories out of the draft. So we got draft picks to talk about. We got user polls to do about those draft picks. We got some other general stuff to go over. I guess we're going to lead off with just going over the names first, right, Steve?
Yeah, let's go over the names.
Okay, so here we go. Round 1, 13th overall, Daron Payne, DT out of Alabama. Do we want to give any sort of commentary on this as we go through? Should we just get through them?
Just read them out, and then we'll go do comments.
All right, well, number 2, this was the big story, obviously. You all probably know this that are listening, but this was the biggest probably acquisition for us in the draft, or certainly the most surprising, one of the more surprising. This is 59th overall, round 2, Darius Geis, running back out of LSU, fell to us, and we pulled the trigger. Moving on from there, Jaron Christian, that's a tackle out of Louisville. Round 3, that's 74th overall. Round 4, we're at 109 overall now. Troy Apke, is that how you say it?
It is. It's Apke. The Redskins helpfully sent out their pronunciation guide yesterday, so thank you, Redskins PR.
Much. Yes, we need that. Please keep sending those. Moving on from there, round 5, 163rd, Tim Settle, defensive lineman out of Virginia Tech. Moving on to the 6th round now, 197th, Sean Dion Hamilton, that's an inside linebacker out of Alabama. We're getting late in the draft now, 7th round, 241st overall, Greg Stroman, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. 256 overall, Trey Quinn, wide receiver out of SMU. And that's kind of the big marquee names. Now, we also have some big signings from undrafted guys, but maybe we should talk about this main cadre first before we get into the undrafted guys.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to – I guess our polls kind of went in line with some of these draft rounds, so maybe we should go over those.
Yeah. Okay. We did 2 polls. We did one poll that was on the first round, and then another poll that was on the second round. We did not do a day 3 poll because there really wasn't time before showtime, and why do something if it's not valuable to us on the air? So we skipped that. So first round poll: the Redskins selected Alabama defensive tackle Daron Payne with the 13th pick in the draft. How do you feel about the pick? The 4 options I gave, because we always have to have 4 options for some really unknown and irrelevant reason. It's love it is first one, like it but don't love it. Third option is meh, could have done better, and the fourth option is hate it. So, since Sean has been gone so long, I think we had Jamal on before we had Sean on. Let's start with you, Sean. What do you think the fans... We'll give our opinions later, but what do you think the fans thought about the Daron Payne selection?
I'm going to go with option C, like it, don't love it, I think was the wording on that one, right?
Yeah, like it, but don't love it, yeah.
I am going to say that, man, it's kind of a gut instinct in terms of the fans. I think they were expecting something a little different. I'm going to guess they said that. I am a little bit more positive about it. So give me B again. What's the wording on B?
Well, B was like it, but don't love it.
Oh, okay. So it was A then?
A was love it. Yeah, A was love it, yeah.
You know what? I'll just side with the fan base here. I'm going to assume they said B, and I'm going to go with B as well.
Okay. Jamal, what do you think?
I think the fan base liked it, but didn't love it. I think at 13 they probably would have figured, especially with Derwin James being on the board, they would have figured that Derwin would have been a pick.
Yeah.
And there was, arguably more talent available than Payne at that pick. But so that's why I go with B. I think the fans pick liked it, but don't love it.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks to everybody who voted, because we got a tremendous number of votes this time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we got more than twice the number of votes we usually get on these polls. So thanks. And the fan base actually went with love it. 44% of you out there love the pick, which does surprise me a little bit, but we know that the fans have been bleeding, whining, and crying for defensive line help for months now. So it doesn't surprise me too much. 40% of you out there voted for like it, don't love it. And I think that's your Derwin James crowd probably right there. 12% voted for meh, could have done better, meaning they weren't particularly thrilled about it. Amazingly, 4% of you hated it. I don't know how you could hate a pick like Daron Payne. I don't get that.
Yeah,
myself.
It's a safe pick. It's not a huge gamble, I would think.
Yeah.
Surprised that anyone would muster up a lot of emotion.
That just might be
emotion.
The people are trying to be contrarians out there, which I respect that attitude too.
Yeah, for a 20-year-old to be a first-round pick, a top 15 draft pick, at that. Well, he'll be 21 this year, but either way, a 20-year-old to be that high of a pick at a position where you need to be as a first rounder, you need to be ready to go. Like Jonathan Allen last year, you need to be ready to go.
That's right.
For a guy like him to be ready at that age, it's quite impressive in itself. And on top of that, it is kind of like it's not the sexy pick, but once you get come to grips with it and you evaluate it after the first 5 minutes of that pick, and then you start to think like, well, damn, we actually did need this pick. We did need this type of player. And as a Skins fan, you're like, this is exactly what we've been looking for the X amount of years. So yeah, it's definitely not a sexy pick, not a flashy pick, but at the same time, yeah, it's something that we've been clamoring for a long time. And they actually went to work, not even in the first. I mean, not just the first round, but in the future rounds as well. So
yeah. Okay, so that was day 1 poll. Let's do the day 2 poll since we're doing this. Day 2 poll, the Redskins selected LSU running back Darius Skies with pick 59, number 27 in round 2, and Louisville tackle Jaron Christian with pick 74, which is number 10 in round 3. How do you feel about these picks? Same options here. Love them, like them, but don't love them. Could have done better, and hate them. So, Sean.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because I have seen, just cruising the interwebs here this morning and last night, a huge range of reactions to the Geis situation. Some people grade us out at like an A in our draft, and some people seem to grade us out at like a C or a C minus. So this like a huge amount of range. I'm gonna guess that anyone that responded to this poll, they're mainly talking about the Geis pick, not the third rounder. No offense to him, but I think this is the big one that people are probably thinking of. So I'm gonna say, I'm going to say love it, but not confidently. Okay. Not confidently at all. But that's what I'm going to guess, and I'm going to stick with it because I love it.
Okay. Jamal, what do you think?
So I think, I actually think that Geis is the reason why people would love the pick. I mean, we'll love the whole situation, second and third. But I also think that because of the fact that don't nobody really understand or know why we took Christian in the third round. Not saying we couldn't have took him, but just in the third round as early as we did, that may have, knocked off the love it votes. So I will go with, again, like it, but don't love it.
Okay. Actually, I was a bit surprised at the results of this. 84% of the people who voted, and again, we got good participation on this. Not quite as good as the first round poll, but it was a much shorter. It was only a day. 84% of you voted for Love It.
Oh.
84,
Nice.
yeah, overwhelmingly loved the pick. 13% like it, don't love it. 2% voted for could have been better, and only 1% of you out there hate it. And that
It's such huge value for where we got. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
yeah,
cut in,
well,
but
no,
you gotta love that.
yeah, you're right. I think the hate them is probably the, the guys who think Geis is is a bad guy and all that stuff. That's probably the 1%. So 84% of you out there loved it. Yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I think this is the Geis vote. This isn't the Jaron Christensen vote. So
No, nothing against you, Christian, but
Yeah.
Mr. Christian.
yeah. So anyway, so that's the polls. And again, we didn't do a day 3 poll because there really wouldn't have been time, and we could do it, but we're not going to talk about it. So why do it? So that's the polls.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, thank you to everybody who voted in. Always love to see good participation on those, and this is obviously pretty big news with the draft being done now. Wait, let's go through our thoughts on these guys,
Okay.
and oh boy, I can't wait till we get to the second pick, guys. But let's start with Payne here, defensive tackle, Alabama, round 1, 13th overall. What are your snap reactions to this?
My snap reaction to it is this is a need pick. They desperately needed some help on the defensive line. I was rooting for running back, but it ended up working out because we got my running back choice in the second round, which is a much better value. I think it's a great pick. Payne is not a guy who's going to put up a massive amount of numbers, just because the nature of him being an interior defensive lineman. He only had 39 solo tackles for his career at Alabama, 63 assisted tackles in 35
Wow.
games. Well, but again, he played a lot of nose tackle. If you watch Alabama film,
Yeah.
he's nose tackle. To me, I think he has the ability to play the 3 technique at a minimum. This guy is pretty light. Part of the criticism for him early in his collegiate career was weight, and he lost a whole bunch of weight and got down to what he's listed at now, which is 308, I believe is where he's at now. Yeah, 308. So he's remarkably mobile for being a guy who used to be a big fatty,
Yeah.
So I think the plan here
That's
is
not very eloquently stated, Steve, but I
well,
get
I
your,
mean,
your
okay,
idea.
hey, sue me. It's not
A big fat fatty.
Yeah. So anyway, I think the plan here is probably Allen as a defensive tackle, Payne as a defensive tackle, and then we'll get to Tim Settle later, but I think you're looking at him at nose tackle. So I love the pick because Payne to me is prototypical run stuffer, aggressive attitude, can move. He's got immediate built-in chemistry with John Allen. Who's going to be playing, right down the line from him. So I think it's a great pick. And certainly Derwin James, ton of talent. Our buddy Mark Tyler from Hogs Haven was devastated when we passed up James because he's an elite talent. I get that. But this fits.
Absolutely.
This fits more with what the Redskins need. And for that reason, I thought it was a great pick.
Yeah, so I figured, I kind of feel like it's a great pick too. Well, I would say, just for the sake of being correct, I would say right now it's a really good pick. It's a solid pick for what you need. You need a defense. You need it to bolster a defensive line. You need to add depth. And this is also my response is also taking into account what we did in the later rounds as well. Who else we added? The guy from Virginia Tech himself. But anyway, I think that Payne is the guy. Well, Gruden has said initially, I think it was either the night of or maybe Friday morning, that he expects Payne to play. Actually, he has plans of playing Payne at nose tackle, which is interesting because a 300-pounder, he's around the same weight as Ioannidis. So it's kind of interesting to see what their plans were initially with Payne. But that being said, it adds depth to for what was the most part before Allen got hurt, a very good defensive line, or above average defensive line. You know, we was only giving up 2.6 yards per carry on the ground prior to Allen's injury, but you're bolstering the defensive line, a guy who can stop the run very effectively. Question is, you know, his pass rush ability, but the thing is, he's 20 years old, and again, I mentioned, you know, his value at age 20 being a first round. That's very impressive in itself. You have time to build those skills up as a pass rusher. You have one of the best to coach you in Tom Sula. So he has loads of potential that can be fulfilled here and brought to light here. And you know, again, I think it was a solid pick.
Yeah, I actually, sorry, Sean, I actually agree that I think
cool.
the original plan was to have Payne at nose tackle, but the way the draft kind of worked out, I think we may see a difference. You know, I think we may see Ziggy Hood kind of starting in the middle, and then, you know, depending on how Tim Settle has come along, you know, have him. He's much more of a solely an interior guy just because of his body type and whatnot. So I tend to think the future may be Allen and Payne on the outside, you know, at in the 3 or 4 technique, depending on the situation, and then Ziggy Hood and Tim Settle, right, as the 0 or 1, depending on how it's set up.
Or some other big fat fatty. We can stick.
And I apologize to all the fatties out there for making fun of the fact that Tim Settle used to be fat, or Payne used to be fat.
I do agree, though, that Settle should eventually, if things work out well, because, you know, on paper, is the biggest thing when you're talking about drafts. On paper, Tim Settle is the guy who will be the future nose tackle for the Redskins if things work out well. You have an excellent coach here who like, out of all people, he'll make sure that Settle is ready to go with the Redskins. But again, like, Settle probably will be a future nose tackle. Or, you know, you just got to see how it plays out, because you don't always have to have the biggest guy right there, but at the same time, to have a guy like Tim Settle come to your team, and he's the prototype nose tackle that you need, you know, it can definitely work out. So we'll see.
I think the Redskins don't play a lot of zero tech in terms of defensive line, because we really haven't had a guy who can do it. You know, who can eat that much space, and they maybe we'll get to Settle later, but I think the way it worked out, it could be perfect. But as to Payne, the point I like to make with Payne is his reputation is sort of as a run stopper. But like Jamal said, you know, this kid is 20 years old. He's got time to develop. It's not like he was a 0 in pass rush at Alabama. He did do pass rushing at Alabama. He had a few sacks at Alabama, and he'll get better. So don't think of him as – I don't think the Redskins think he's limited to just being a run stuffer.
Yeah, no, that's – I mean, they obviously have shown they value versatility, so he's got to have something there. Question that I would ask for you guys is, so Payne and Allen actually would have played together, right, at school?
Yeah.
Do we know how their configuration was when they were out on the field together?
Well, I mean, most of the I'm not going to pretend to be an Alabama fan because I hate Nick Saban with the fire of 1,000 suns. So
I can't speak to it either. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, but if you watch Alabama, Payne is the guy primarily in the middle. They do move him around, you know, some. He's not solely the nose tackle, but I think that was sort of his preferred spot, and Allen was on the outside. You know, that's what I saw. Jamal, did you see anything different?
I can't remember from what is it? I can't remember from 2016. It's crazy because I remember Allen and I remember Payne all like both separately, so I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I really can't. So I'll take your word.
We might have to look into that actually and talk about it next show, because it's kind of interesting. Although it's just great that I think them having that chemistry and being on the same team and making it only help. So
yeah.
Oh, that's my thought.
That was my guess too. Like it would be more so. I think they will play a lot like side by side, maybe in nickel situations.
Right.
That would be my guess. But you know, that's all I can really go for.
Well, I think Allen is more athletic than Payne is. You know, he can move a little better. So I think he's probably between the two of those guys. You know, if you have to put one in, move one inside, move one outside, I think the appropriate spot is Allen to the outside of Payne.
Beautiful. Well, I only have one other question. We got to move on to the next guy. But Redskins, released a big thing. I think it was this morning about all their draft picks. So just looking over the information that they sent out. This and Allen, obviously, back-to-back years, were picking a defensive player first. We did that also in 2013 and 14 with Amerson and Trent Murphy. I guess the question that might be on some people's minds is, paid a lot of attention to the defense. Hasn't really worked out for us with the defense being so poor in the last few years recently. Why is this going to be different? Does anything about this just jump out at you as being different? This is a real acquisition that's going to make the whole thing congeal, or is the jury still out? We really have no idea.
Of course the jury's out. The man hadn't played it down, and I'm hopeful because what little we saw of John Allen last year, I thought he made a huge difference.
I sure hope this guy lasts more than 5 games.
Huge numbers.
I sure hope.
Well, yeah, of course. Allen didn't have huge numbers, but I thought he made a big difference. And it's no exaggeration to say Alabama had a tremendous defense. Tremendously successful defense. Again, I'm not an Alabama fan, but you got to give their defense its just due, And so to have now, we've got 4/7 of our front seven could potentially be Alabama products with the addition of Sean Dion Hamilton, who we'll talk about later. So I'm hopeful because they have a tradition of excellence with the Alabama defense in college. This is not like Fort Hays State where we're rolling dice on a project, So that's my thought.
All right, well, let's move on to the next pick then. Let's talk about Darius Geis. So this is the big marquee, I think, acquisition here. I don't think many people saw this as a real possibility for the Redskins until the actual draft started and things started happening. Here's an audio representation of Geis's selection here in the draft. That's the sound of the Redskins bomb going off as he somehow crashes through all these selections, landing on the Redskins at 59. What do you guys think? We've heard some rumors. There was questions about his attitude, I guess, about some off-the-field stuff. What do you guys think happened? This guy was marked up, I think, way higher than getting selected by the Redskins in the second round. What do you think happened? And let's talk about the pick.
Well, you guys weren't here when we interviewed Ernest Biner, but Ernest himself loved Geis and said he was a mid to late first round talent, and that's where I had him evaluated. Geis is a guy who had, if you don't know his background, he had a very tough childhood. His father was murdered when he was 7 years old. His brother's been in and out of jail, for gangs and things like that. So he's had it rough. And I think that's probably shaped who he is as a person. I think this is a young kid who's not sophisticated, who hasn't had professional interviews, certainly. And I think the interviews went badly, blame the agent, blame Geis, blame somebody, but I think the interviews pretty clearly went badly. The rumor was that he got into an argument with the Eagles running backs coach, which the Eagles beat writers said didn't happen. But Ian Rappaport said it did, and Mike Mayock said he heard something, about some incident. So I don't know, and I don't really care. I think this is a matter in terms of Geis. He looks to me like he's a decent guy. He's never been in trouble. He's never had a DUI. He's not been popped for drugs. He's not beaten up his girlfriend. There's nothing like that on him. So I think, I think this is just a kid who's a young guy who's in an extraordinary situation and maybe didn't handle it well, maybe doesn't know how to handle it well. So I put 10, and plus we've got strong leaders on this team, DJ Swearinger, Trent Williams. These guys will take care of him. From an on-the-field perspective, I love the pick. I think Geis is the classic power back that we've always needed. They clearly want him to take command of the first and second down stuff. He's a big guy. He initiates contact. He's going to run over you, not run around you. But at the same time, he's a sub 4.5 40 runner. I think he's got it all. I think he can be the next great Redskins running back.
I'll piggyback off that. I do think that the type of player that he is, he has the next. First off, and 4.5 is definitely impressive for his size. And he's a guy he could probably, as a pro, I'll probably have to see it, but I'm pretty confident he's the type of guy who can beat a long distance runner as well, who could pop something for 60 if possible needed. At the same time, he has footwork that's very impressive at the line of scrimmage when there's a lot of, as Kirk Cousins once said, there's a lot of what do you say? A lot of garbage at his feet or something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
When those things are around there, he does have the ability to make some people miss in huge situations where offensive line may not have been much help on that particular play. And he has the power to push forward for a couple of yards if need be. So I do like guys. I don't know about his hands. I can't lie to you. Drills as a prospect, that it's not that hard to catch the ball. But in game, there's difference. I understand that he may struggle in passing situations, so that's just something that we'll have to see in training camp. Probably training camp more so than anything. I was gonna say mini camp, but that probably won't tell us much. So yeah, I really like the pick, and I also wanted to take this time to talk about just a part of the draft day party yesterday, because we're recording on a Sunday. He's very energetic. He was excited. I think what was interesting, and I'll take some time to write about some stuff that I saw on Saturday. But what was interesting was the amount of I think I would like to say, without necessarily asking him per se, but it seemed like he was very motivated to come in and improve a lot of people, because these rumors and apparently came out of nowhere to him. Like, he didn't see it coming. He didn't see it coming either. So he doesn't know what's going on. So I think he was very motivated to prove something. And when he got in and introduced himself to the fans, he talked about a lot of things. Specifically making sure that he knew, or that the fans knew, that he was coming in to prove his worth, and to make sure that they knew he was one of the best backs that the Redskins could have drafted, and one of the best backs that they did draft. So.
And by the way, Jamual was credentialed media for this thing, so his observations were from the
first-hand
the
experience,
beast, so to speak. Thanks to the Redskins for allowing us to cover the event.
Seriously.
Appreciate it. Let me talk about numbers real fast for guys, because I think they're worth a discussion. Because overall he had 471 carries at LSU, which is a running team, and it's a lot of carries. 3,074 yards, 6.5 yards per carry average. But here's the thing. As a freshman, 51 carries, 8.5 yards per carry. As a sophomore, 7.6 yards per carry. Dropped off a little bit last year, 5.3 yards per carry, which in college is not elite. But LSU wasn't nearly as good a team last year either. They were only 9-4. They weren't up to the normal LSU level of excellence. So the hope, obviously, is we get the 2016 version of Darius, not necessarily the 2017 version. If there's a knock on him, that would be it, is that we saw a drop-off of performance somewhat, but I tend to personally blame that on the fact that LSU just wasn't that good last year, comparatively speaking. But receiving 32 receptions in his career, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, he can catch the ball. We'll just have to see. I'm not sure the Redskins care a whole lot about that, because they've got Chris Thompson, to do that. He's not going to be in there in third down anyway. Jay Gruden flat out said that. He said Chris Thompson's our third down back. Guys is the first and second round, or first and second.
Yeah,
round
and after the kind of year that Thompson had, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I kind of love the idea of all that. My question about Geis is, well, actually, first, I'll just piggyback off of what you said with an observation. I love that he's shorter. He's got a lower center of gravity. He runs with a lot of power and decisiveness. If he can take over that aspect of his college game to the pros, that's great. That's what we need. It's he's gonna hit the hole, and he does it decisively. He doesn't sit around there and waffle back and forth on what to do. Passes the eye test certainly on his abilities there. My question for you guys would be, what do you think goes through a guy's head like Geis when he falls so far and ends up with the Redskins? I read some things that were saying, he must be so disappointed. He's got interviews, with the Super Bowl champion Eagles. He falls to the Redskins late in the second round, full half a round basically later than the worst predictions said he was going to go. Do you think he's disappointed? What do you think goes through someone's head like that when they get picked up by the Skins?
I mean, Jamal, you were 10 feet from him. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he was more so just, if I can remember verbatim, which I'm struggling right now, but he was a guy, he was just more so happy that the Redskins.
He's just basking in the happiness of the moment.
Anything. Yeah, so it was more so just happy the Redskins picked him and just, ready to prove himself because he was more so, like I said, he was motivated. He had a drive that was, he wanted everybody to know where he was coming from, and it was kind of, like I said, the things where he failed, he doesn't really know why. He don't know where the rumors came from. The Eagles beat reporter said that wasn't true. Again, there's two other people, national reporters, saying that they heard, well, one national reporter and then another, like a national scout or something like that. They said that they heard some things, but he just doesn't know where it's coming from. So it's kind of more so like
he's just surprised. He's not disappointed. He's just surprised at what happened.
Yeah, he just he just doesn't know where it's coming from. So
I think that, guys, I think it's ultimately not going to matter at all. If he comes in and does well, he averages 4.5 yards a carry and becomes the Redskins. He grabs a hold of the Redskins running back situation. None of this stuff's going to matter, and it's not going to matter he was drafted in the second round instead of the first round. I'm sure it was disappointing for him in the moment, but just watching him from TV, not where Jamal was, he looked ecstatic to be in D.C. He looked ecstatic that everything was past him. I mean, the ESPN did a big profile on him a couple weeks ago, and delved into his background and whatnot, and he talked a lot about how he was getting out, and what he was meaning by that was getting out of his situation in Baton Rouge, and he talked about his brother, and how he wished his brother could have just stayed clean for a year.
He's going to make the most.
Almost out. I think Darius Geis is a guy who more than most sees that his situation has drastically changed overnight, and he's excited about the possibility you make the most of it. I think he's excited about making the most of it. Just looking at him in the interviews,
he's smaller. Yeah, he's 5'10", right?
More
220 or something.
I was expecting to see Earl Campbell in size, and he's not quite that big. He wasn't quite that big and bulky. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Who he reminds me of is a little bit lighter John Riggins in terms of running style. Riggins Riggins, I mean, that's a big name, and that's not fair. I mean, Riggins is a Hall of Fame running back, but Riggo is a guy who was a track star at Kansas, for those of you who don't remember. I mean, for back in his day, he's not going to win 100 now, but back then he was a sprinter, and he ran over people. Obviously, we all know about John Riggins. I think that's Darius Geis, just a little bit lighter. So that's
God. If he lived up to even part of that name, that would be huge for this fan base. My God, it's what we need.
Of course.
Okay, well, we have spent a lot of time on the first two picks. We can go through the next ones a little bit quicker. It obviously gets a little bit harder to find commentary on these guys as we get deeper into the draft. No offense to them. Number 3, Jaron Christian, tackle, Louisville, 3-year starter there. How do you guys feel about this? Obviously, we've got Ty Nsekhe. He's a little bit older now, coming to the end of his contract, so this is a pretty important position to be bolstering here. Any snap thoughts about Jaron Christian?
I like to do word association. You say Jaron Christensen to me, and I'll give you my immediate word association.
Jaron Christian.
Confused.
Oh, sad.
It's not so much about him, and the word on Jaron is, he's athletic. He's a little raw technique-wise. I hit up our buddy Adam Trasky about him because Adam's watched a lot of, obviously watches all the film. And Adam said that this guy is a pure tackle candidate. He's not a candidate to move inside. That's not in his skill set. So I was a little bit confused. Not that we don't need tackle depth, but if we're going to draft for depth, why are we doing it in round 3? That's what confused me about Christensen. The thing to note, I think, is that Jay this was Friday, at the Friday night press conference, Jay mentioned that Ty Nsekhe will, quote, at some point, unquote, compete at guard. And so maybe the plan here is to get the best 5 guys on the field, move Nsekhe at guard, who did it last year, you know, in an unplanned emergency situation, look pretty good. And so maybe the long-term plan is in second guard, Jaron Christensen becomes a permanent swing tackle, and if they get tired of Morgan Moses and this huge contract, at some point, you know, maybe he steps in. I have to think that's the plan. Otherwise, I don't quite get it.
Yeah. So I think that I had some time to think about it initially. I didn't know why we took him. Initially on Friday, I didn't know why we took him. Knowing that there was other talent there, we could have got the safety earlier instead of Troy. We could have got a safety in the third round. We could have got a defensive back period in the third round to help our secondary out. And then when you think about it a little bit further, me, not you, but when I think about it a little bit further, you understand that the injuries across the offensive line was insane last year. Trent Williams, beyond Trent Williams and Morgan Moses, you have only Ty Secchi, who was also a 31, 32-year-old tackle.
32.
32.
Yeah, 32-year-old tackle, swing tackle. So you have to find some depth at the offensive line, and you have to find quality depth. So I think getting Christian at as early as possible, you feel like he's one of the better swing tackles out there, which from what we understand, is proven to be accurate in terms of at the college level. If he can develop some, he's undersized. He's under 300 pounds.
Yeah, he was listed at 298.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to get a little bit more size, get some strength as he develops as a pro. But it kind of works because you have a young tackle who can back up any left tackle or right tackle pending any injuries, barring any injuries. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like it's a decent pick. I wouldn't say it's the best pick. It's a decent pick because you're preparing for the future just in case anything happens.
Yeah. And as to him being a swing tackle, he does have experience in college playing both left and right tackle. So that goes to the idea that he would be able to flip-flop on the fly given the injury situation. I was kind of like you, Jamal. It was, at first I didn't understand it, and the more I thought about it, the more I sort of get it. I think the third round is still a bit high to draft a swing tackle, backup swing tackle, but it is what it is, and he's got a great offensive line coach to help him technique-wise. So
I can't add much more to what you guys just said. That was great. I'd just say it's health and youth at a position that was pretty roughed up, in years past with injuries. It's versatility, health, and youth. So it's those three things. I kind of like it. Yeah. You need it. This team really needs it. Moving on from there, then let's go to Troy Apke, which is fourth round safety out of Penn State. Holy guacamole, guys, because I just read this from the Redskins information release here. This is the highest the Redskins have selected a safety since LaRon Landry with the 6th overall pick. Why do we not draft safeties high, guys? I had no idea.
Can't answer that.
Great question. I mean, it's the same reason why we haven't taken a Redskins running back. We haven't taken a running back, in the first 2 rounds since Liddell Betts in 2002. It just happens. I don't know. That's a good question.
And then it was Reggie Brooks before that in the early 90s. I mean, the Redskins draft a ton of DBs, and they do, but they don't draft safeties high for some reason. They don't draft running backs high. They draft a ton of running backs, but they're all gambles. And so that I don't want to go back to guys. Look, Troy Apke is going to get immediate comparisons to Reed Doty because he's white. I'm just being honest. I mean, he's going to get white comparisons because he's white. In the same way that Lamar Jackson is unfairly criticized because he's a black quarterback who has a southern drawl, Troy Apke is going to be unfairly criticized because he's a white safety. But here's what to know about Troy. This dude is an elite athlete. I mean, off the charts in terms of measurables. Runs a 4.3 40. He's a burner, big-time burner. It jumped 10, 11 in the broad jump. I mean, this is a guy who's an athlete. The knock on him is that his coverage skills a little bit lacking. I mean, he needs help in that regard. He's a very strong special teams player. He played special teams at Penn State. So I think the Redskins look at him as probably depth in terms of safety, and he's not going to take over for DJ Swearinger anytime soon. But with his kind of speed, that's invaluable in coverage, in special teams coverage. So I think that's probably his role for the Redskins for the next couple of years, and then we'll see what happens.
So, yeah, I kind of agree. I agree with uh, the special teams, bro. Because at this point, for you to be able, it's kind of like Fabian Moreau, his rookie year. You know, he didn't get much burn in the regular season. He didn't get much burn playing time at a cornerback. You know, for obvious reasons, there was a lot of competition in front of him, and there was a lot of talent that was already, you know, ready and pro ready to go at that point. So Fabian was a standout on special teams, and it would be the same reason why Troy's going to be standing out on special teams. I don't know how great he was at Penn State. That's something we'll have to, like, if anybody knows, then you know more than I do, but I'm not sure how good he was at Penn State. However, that's where he'll probably be starting out at until he's able to develop as a safety. But he'll definitely get his opportunities in preseason, just like Fabian Moreau did, and you'll see if he stands out. I mean, the thing is, speed. If you have 4.3 speed as a pro, that negates a lot of your mistakes. If you know the opportunities come your way, you make a mistake, you can make up for it if the quarterback makes a throw that's kind of hanging, or it's underthrown, or it's just in the air. Like, you can make a lot of plays due to your speed. Yeah, so
you can close in on it real
just
fast.
because of the fact that you're a 4.3 safety and you're athletic and explosive, you can do a lot of things. So you know, we'll see how it goes, but he can definitely, if he learns how to cover and learns responsibilities, roles and responsibilities, he'll be all right down the road.
I mean, look, there was some guy that named Daryl who used to play cornerback for the Redskins who made up for an awful lot of mistakes with his 4.19 speed. You know, and this is the same way as Troy. I mean, look, Troy is he was only a starter for 1 year at Penn State. So this is not a guy who was a star there. He's going to have to rely on athletic ability. I think we've pretty much nailed him. Look for Troy to be a special teams leader. He's a big effort guy. He hits hard, and that screams special teams. And he'll get his shot. You know, he'll get his shot. You know, because it's not like injuries avoid this team. So we'll see him more. You know, in the coming time.
And one thing's for sure to note as well, he's not necessarily in his report, he's not necessarily known as a playmaker. So don't expect just because he has the speed that he'll be making, you know, he'll be the difference maker on the defense once he gets, you know, once he gets some defensive snaps. More so, you have to hope that he's in the right position at times and he can develop into a person who can take away the big plays defensively. But you know, we'll see how it goes. But the speed is definitely a factor, and you cannot knock speed. The more speed you have as a team, the better you are. And then if you have good coaching, you become an elite team. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, this team can use more team speed, so this helps. His father, incidentally, he's got football in his blood. His father was a replacement player for the Steelers in the on the 87 strike team. So take that for what you will. Yeah. Right.
Nice. Got a football legacy. Well, I love all that. I guess, you know, it's probably pretty safe to say 4th round and later in the NFL draft, all these guys are going to have holes in their game. You know, it's about looking for someone with a lot of potential, especially if you got elite speed. You know, that's probably pretty huge if you can get it in the 4th draft. So I would, in the 4th round, so I would expect a lot of these guys fall under that category. So next up is Tim Settle, defensive lineman. Probably not a huge monologue we can give about this guy, but we did want to mention him in context of some other picks. So what's your snap reaction to this? I think, Steve, you were alluding to
Tim
something
Settle,
earlier about him.
330 pounds. You guys out there are probably, a lot of you are very familiar with him because he was a Virginia Tech guy, you know, and I know a lot of Redskins fans are Virginia Tech fans. The reason Tim Settle fell so far in the combine, you know, because he was an elite player. You know, at one point people thought he was going to be a 1st or 2nd round draft pick. He absolutely tanked at the combine, was terrible in the measurables, ran a 5.37 40, 23-inch vertical leap, which even for a nose. Well, I mean,
gotta wonder how that happens to a guy. It sucks.
You know, that's just not. Yeah. It's just that was frowned on, and that's why he dropped. He improved in the measurables at the Virginia Tech Pro Day, 5.2 40 and a 25-inch vertical, which is a little bit better. He didn't do the bench. I couldn't find any bench press measurable for him anywhere for some reason. I don't know why he wouldn't do the bench press. I don't know if that means he couldn't do it or what. But Settle is pretty agile considering he's 330 pounds. Yeah, he's a big boy. Again, I had to hit Adam
big
up
boy.
because Adam played at Virginia Tech, remember? And Adam thinks that Settle.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's Adam Taraski,
Adam
folks,
thinks
of
that
Hogstye fan.
Settle could actually kick out to the 3 tech if they need to, and thinks he's good enough to do that. So take that for what you will. But as I said earlier, I think the long-term plan is Allen and Payne defensive tackle, Settle as the true nose tackle, space-eating nose tackle, and I think if we do that, and it works out. So he has potential and he has talent. With him, it's just conditioning and weight, more than anything. So I think if it works out, the Redskins' defensive line could be set for a football generation, truthfully.
Yeah.
Going to be a lot of new faces on that defensive line, I'm starting to realize. Potentially big change. Okay, let's unless Jamal, you want to throw out anything big about him, we can move on to our next fella.
There's nothing to add in terms of what Steve already said. It's more so the fact that you gotta not you gotta understand, but more so we gotta realize that the face and the youth infusion that's going on the defensive line is very important. You have Terrell McClain and Stacey McHugh, who are at least 27 years old. I think both are at least 27 years old. And you have Ziggy, who's I think already 30. These are guys. And then you got Phil Taylor, who's pushing 30, I believe. If he's 29, I think he's about 30 now. These are the older veterans. But then you have Ioannidis, Allen, and then the 2 rookies that we just drafted. And you also have Anthony Lanier. These are guys that you're looking forward to being a part of your future, a part of the Redskins' future. Like this is what you want in the defensive line. You understand that the Redskins brass period is taking this more serious than they ever have been. They've been trying to get free agents to do the job, but you got to realize that sometimes you also need to draft your own and develop your own, and that's what they started doing in 2016 to present. So the youth infusion has been going on, and I think that they're making the right moves, regardless of how Settle works out, because we know Steve already explained what the issues were with him. But I think what they're doing right now is the right way to do it.
Yeah, they've at least got the right strategy.
We're going to instantly start our annual position group breakdowns, here in the next couple weeks. So we'll talk more about the defensive line group, hashtag content in off season. but understand this: big names on the defensive line are going to get cut because we have about 1 million guys who are in the defensive line group right now, and we'll talk about it more later. But if I were Terrell McClain in particular, I'd be nervous right about now. There's a couple of them boys that have to step up, and really have to show they belong on the team because Payne and Allen aren't going anywhere. If Settle tanks, Settle could end up on the practice squad, as a 5th rounder. But, there are a lot of new faces there. So, and Anthony Lanier, they do. Yeah.
They got their work cut out for them this offseason. So let's. I really want to get to Jamal's report because I have questions to ask him about being at the draft day party. So let's blow through these last few guys. 6th round, we're down to Sean Dion Hamilton. I hate him because he can't spell Sean correctly. But we're at about the 200 pick and after, so I would assume not a huge amount to say about these guys. Linebacker, once again out of Alabama. Anything major you guys want to say about Hamilton?
The reason Hamilton was drafted in round 6 is that he has a tremendously ugly injury history. 8 torn ACL in his right knee, fractured kneecap in 2017.
Good Lord. Yeah. Oh, stay away with your knee problem.
Well, not only that,
get away from me with your knee problem.
He's got a disaster zone as a right knee. Missed the better part of 2 years because of this.
Oh, dear
Lord. Only
Lord.
played 9 games last year. And he's 6 foot, 228 pounds. He's tiny bit undersized for a 3-point sword linebacker. But here's the thing about Hamilton. Very, very, very smart guy. Valedictorian at his high school. He was the defensive signal caller at Alabama. He is, and if you read his injury, I didn't listen to his interview transcript or to his interview last night with the conference call with the media, but I read the transcript. He is, he speaks very well, and what I mean by that is he's clearly extremely intelligent. That's what I mean by speak well.
Yeah, that means a lot.
He
that
knows
that
what
does
he's saying.
mean a lot.
I think this is a guy who they're gambling on because of his injuries. But if he can stay healthy, we got a potential starter as a sleeper pick in the 6th round if he can stay healthy.
Do you know his 40 time?
Yeah, I have. Well, no, he didn't run a 40, but he was projected to be in the 4. Yeah, because he's hurt, but he was Walter Football, as my source said, that he was projected to be in the 4.6 range. Okay. So if Walter Football's right, that's about where he was.
All right. I let it rock. I don't have much to say about him.
Okay.
Just about the Alabama things. It's kind of, I think you notice the trend with the SEC boys and then also Alabama. I think when you get a lot of teammates like that together again on the same team, it does something in terms of cohesion and the ability to play together on one sound and one accord. So that is one thing that, regardless of if people hate Alabama or not, the team building process also gets important when you want to have familiarity with the players that's on your roster. So.
Yeah, I mean, actually, just to add to that, I mean, this just says back-to-back drafts for the we have selected from Alabama both a defensive lineman and a linebacker in back-to-back drafts last 2 years. So that's 4 new guys from Alabama along that line.
Hate to say it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, did I cut you off there? All right, let's move to that next guy then, which would be Greg Stroman, cornerback out of Virginia Tech, another Virginia Tech boy. So a name that is potentially familiar to us here. 241 overall, 7th round. Anything major to say
I mean,
about
again, a lot of you guys
Stroman
know him really well because he's a Virginia Tech guy. And Adam played with him and knows him, very well. We will. And by the way, Adam and I are going to combine on a more in-depth Deron Landry piece for this week. So look for that. But I said Deron. Did I say Deron Landry? I meant Deron Payne. Sorry, not Deron Landry. I don't have much to say about Deron Landry. Deron Payne. We're going to combine on it. But here's the thing to know about Stroman, if you don't know. Extremely versatile. He was a corner, but he was also a wide receiver, a running back, and their principal. Not only was their principal punt returner, was actually first team all-conference corner, honorable mention all-conference as a punt returner. So he is incredibly versatile. He is an athlete.
He's an athlete.
What Adam said to me immediately was, "This is our starting punter, or starting punt returner, rather."
Well, that's not a hard job to win.
Well, Jay mentioned that. Jay mentioned that they didn't have anybody who could catch the ball besides Jameson Crowder and D'Angelo Hall was about 100 years old last year. So I think they're looking at Stroman to take over as punt returner and be corner depth. Adam says he can play both inside and outside. I'll take Adam's word for it. So maybe this is our slot guy, but more importantly, this is our punt returner.
All right. Jamal, anything to add there, or should we just move on to our next guy?
Gray. I don't know why I can't remember his first name, but our DB is
Torian Gray.
Thank you. Torian Gray has familiarity with the cornerback. Apparently, he's one of the most competitive cornerbacks in the draft, or that a lot of people know. He has a lot of respect, and Torian Gray knows him. So look out for him, at least in preseason. You may be hearing his name a lot. In training camp, you may be hearing his name a lot. We'll see how it goes in the regular season, but he's one of those guys. So that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, the knock on him is he's a little small, 5'11", 180 pounds. So if you want to knock on Stroman, and probably the reason why he dropped is, you pair him up with, like Martavis Bryant, for example, it might not go well, because he's gonna get bullied. Yeah, I mean that's why he's got good coverage skills, but he's a little bit small to body up against big, athletic NFL receivers. So that's the knock on Stroman. That's probably why he dropped.
No, makes complete sense. Okay, last guy, and I believe this was actually the final pick of the draft in general, went to us, which would be Trey Quinn, which was a wide receiver out of Southern Methodist University,
yes.
I think it was.
Yes.
So you guys have surprised me with every pick so far, but you can't possibly have so much to say about this guy, right?
I do have a lot to say about him.
I knew Steve. I knew you would.
Listen,
God,
when you
doing so much research.
Well, when you write as much as I did over the weekend, over the past 3 days, or all these guys, you pick up a few things. First of all, Quinn it was Mr. Irrelevant, which is kind of cool. He gets a free trip to somewhere because of it, which is kind of neat.
That is so funny.
Yeah, but Trey Quinn was actually one of the best receivers in NCAA last year, believe it or not. He played at LSU for 2 years, basically got no play at all. Transferred to SMU, had 114 receptions last year, which is unbelievable in a 13-game college season.
Yeah.
He did everything for him, was their superstar. He's an average. We're not talking about, a tremendous athlete by NFL standards. 4.455 40, 33-inch vertical leap, 9.8 broad jump. I think this is the new Ryan Grant in terms of what he can do for the Redskins. He's a good listen, he's a good route runner, is known to have good hands. He can play the slot. His thing is going to be slot, but if you can run good routes, you can kind of do everything. And he's also a special teamer too. He also returned punts. So I think that the Redskins are probably looking for him and Stroman to compete to be the punt returner. But this kid may be the new Ryan Grant.
All right. Well, Sean, I don't have anything to add. I just wanted to say something for the record.
Please do.
Steve,
I was waiting for it. I'm ready.
Steve, I just want you to know, man, there will never, ever be another Ryan Grant.
Jamal's his biggest fan. I think he may be your long-lost brother or cousin or something.
Ryan Grant is one of a kind, man. So, look, fella from SMU, I'm rooting for you, but you need to be your own player. Ryan Grant is a legend.
This is Grantstown here, yeah. This is Grantstown.
That's it.
All right, fair enough. Well, we also have these 10 or so guys, undrafted free agents that the team went ahead and acquired. I guess we can roll through these guys real quick if you guys want to. Just hit the names.
All
right, so Simi Cobbs is the first one, wide receiver out of Indiana. Micah Holder, another wide receiver, this one out of San Diego State. Ty McCulley, offensive lineman out of CSU. Go CSU. Sean Welsh, offensive lineman from Iowa. DeMornay Pearson another wide receiver, so that's the third undrafted free agent wide receiver, this one out of Nebraska. Matt Flanagan, a tight end out of Pittsburgh. Okay, tight end. I was hoping to see some sort of tight end acquisition there. Martez Carter, running back out of Grambling. It's Timon, I think is how you say it. Timon Paris.
Out of Grambling State.
Out of Grambling State. Timon Paris, that's the offensive tackle. Stony Brook. Devon Durant out of Marshall. It's a defensive lineman. And finally, Jared Fernandez, linebacker out of NC State. Any name on that list? I know I went through them really quick. Any name on that list stand out to you or anything?
Watch out for the kid from Grambling. Remember Doug Williams' connection with the Grambling program. So he knows. What was the kid's name again? The Grambling running back?
Martez Carter.
Watch out for Martez Carter because I'm guessing that Doug Williams really believes in him. Just because he's from Grambling. And the other thing is the tight end. They did need tight. This draft was a big need-filling draft. They did a lot. They filled the running back need, the defensive line need. They got some depth at safety, all that. But they missed on tight end. They just ran out of space. Yeah. So maybe this kid, I don't know anything about him at all. I'm not going to sit here and talk and lie about it. But they needed help at tight end, and so watch out for him too.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I've heard a lot about Carter. That's why I was a little bit surprised that we got him. It was a lot of good things that I heard. I didn't know too much about him, but I just knew because I'm just in that circle of those type of colleges. I'm not even. Yeah, I think Carter is the guy. I wanted to say it was another person, but I'm thinking of. I don't even want to confuse anybody that's listening, so I'll just stop right there. But Carter is the guy that I've heard about. So that's all.
Well, hey, if a name jumps out to you that we picked up as an undrafted free agent, I'd say that's a pretty damn good sign. If you've heard of any of these guys before, that's pretty big. I would say any of these guys better be ready to play because how many people did we sign off the streets / the practice squad last year? It was a good number. So these guys, you have a chance. You have more than a good chance at seeing some playing time for this team. So. Okay, moving on from there. Gosh, we took a lot of draft time, but I guess that's appropriate because it is the draft. I would love to hear a little bit from Jamual just about the draft day experience. Obviously, once again, thank you to the Redskins for credentialing us for that. Jamual took some awesome pictures and some videos there that we'll get up on our social media. I think we already have some, so keep checking back there. But what was that experience like, Jamual? I mean, can you just walk us through how the day sort of started attending a party like this? I mean, this is the kind of thing that no one in our viewership will be able to do most likely. So what was it like to arrive there, and what did you see?
Well, I guess I arrived pretty early with some other people. I think when I got there, they didn't even have the credential list. They didn't even have the credential list ready for the people that were checking in. So got there like around like 9:30 or something. I think the press conference was at 10. The intro presser was for the first and second round pick was at 10:40, 10:42, something around that time, or maybe 10:45. I can't remember. But got there, checked in. I tried to find everywhere so I wouldn't be lost. I tried to find where I needed to go. First thing I checked into was the media room. So found the media room. But before I stepped in there, I ate my breakfast biscuits. So I ate my breakfast biscuits outside.
You brought breakfast biscuits with you to FedEx?
Belvita breakfast biscuits. Had a
Hell
couple,
yeah.
had a few of them. Finished that, went in there, and I just checked in to see just to confirm what time the presser was. I said, all right, I had plenty of time. I stepped out to the field. Took a couple photos and videos, things like that. The country singer, I don't even remember her name, but the country singer that was warming up and practicing before the crowd actually got out there.
Was she good?
She could sing.
I don't know if you're a country fan.
I know she could sing. I don't know any of her music, so that's all I can really say. She could sing. Put it that way. She was one of the. I think she was like the America's Got Talent, or America's one of those singing shows. She was like the winner or something like that.
So she's like a B-list country star, like probably. No offense to her. Like that was mean.
But so yeah, I had enough time to just sit on the field and walk around. It's kind of crazy though. I was like, it feels like my field that I play on. It felt so uneven in the middle. And I don't.
See, this is awesome. You actually stepped a foot on the shitty field that we hear about every year. That's pretty awesome.
I stepped on the field and I was just thinking like it feels good because it's natural grass. It felt like it was well kept. Obviously, because not many people have been stepping on it recently or playing on it. But over like near the logo, it was kind of you could see and feel that it was uneven in the center. That's that. We went back in for the press conference.
So is it just like a swarm of media people? You're just in this huge crowd of reporters? Is that what it is? Or is it a smaller group? I mean, I saw some of your videos, obviously, but...
So, when we went to the media room, first off, NFL Network was there, so it was a pretty big day for the most part.
Can I interrupt you real fast? NFL Network can go screw themselves because they did not broadcast Laz Alonso's announcement of the 4th round pick. So I fault them for that. But sorry, go ahead.
Fair enough.
So I was joking with my friends. I was telling them, I was like, hey man, just let y'all know my dreads might make an appearance on NFL Network. Y'all be on the lookout. But because I was sitting right beside them. But when I left out, I went to use the bathroom. They was already reporting, so I wasn't on TV. Or my dreads wasn't on TV. But to answer your question, Sean, the media, it was kind of in that certain area because it was Geis and Payne's family there too, so it was more so a mixture of media and family members. But the crowd in itself, when you had the photo op, the pictures that I sent you all, it was a big crowd in front of them. I can't say it was so many people in the media room itself. So when we went out after all that happened, you guys seen that most of that on Twitter. Went out on the field, and that's when it was like around closer to 11:30 or something. That's when the events really began, and that's when the crowd was out there. So the crowd was out there, and it was actually pretty exciting it was fun, I would say. And I'm pretty sure it was exciting for the rookies because you met a fan base that was really excited to have you all. A lot of people were screaming for Geis and Payne just as loud as they were screaming for the free T-shirts. It was it was very fun.
And what did you pick up from their demeanor, the new guys? I mean, did they seem just like totally overwhelmed when you saw them in person, or were they just really excited and jazzed up to have so much attention?
So Geis, well, like I said, Geis was the one that was amped up. He was amped up from start to finish. He was very excited. Payne, and Payne was a guy who's by his demeanor, he's more so like Ryan Anderson, except for Ryan Anderson talks a lot of trash, but he's more like confident in his trash talking. But Payne is the guy who's very serious, but at the same time, he's like he's a quiet person. So it's like he doesn't mind the attention, but it's more so, he seems like the person who would prefer not to have that attention on him. If that makes sense. So,
he's not even on Twitter at all. Payne is not on Twitter, and he's a country boy,
God, it's practically unheard of these days.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Payne, he is on Instagram, but he does have a Twitter, but I think he shut it down because I tried to mention him on one of the videos that I had, and his Twitter is up there, but I think he deleted it.
Yeah, he shut it down.
Yeah. So he's just a guy who he shies away from the limelight. He just wants to go out there and perform, and it's kind of similar to Jonathan Allen, who's like relaxed as well. But when Payne went to go around, when Geis went to go around and shake the fans' hands and, sign some stuff. He was, like I said, he was amped up. He was excited, running around, running through the line back and forth. And then, Payne, you look at Payne. And
that's what I would be doing.
You look at Payne and then you just see him, I got to do it. I got to do it.
Yeah.
So
he's all business.
He just walked up, he was a little bit more relaxed, walking down the line and stuff like that. So, like I said, it was a fun event. Then you had NBC Sports Now, I think that's the name of the local TV show. It used to be Comcast Sports Net, but they changed it.
I think it's NBC Sports Washington.
There we go.
What the name of it.
There we go. They was out there, reporting for the Redskins media or Redskins draft day party. So it was really crowded on the field per se, but in the media room it was a little bit. It wasn't
smaller group.
It was a smaller group, but outside it was a lot of people.
We are going to do something with all of Jamal's video and photos and everything, so be on the lookout for that. We don't quite know what we're going to do with it, but it'll be something.
Yeah, we'll try to. We'll definitely have it on the All-Star website itself. So.
Last question, because I know we got to let people get back to their lives, but I'm just curious. Were there any sightings of Dan Snyder or Bruce Allen or any of the administration that you saw at the party?
Tanya was there.
Tanya being Tanya Snyder, Dan Snyder's wife.
Yep, Tanya was there. I did not see Bruce. I did not see Doug.
Bruce is no doubt in the draft room. I can't imagine why.
You know what? Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So, and I'm pretty sure Dan was there too. I would imagine. So
probably.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't see none of them. They were probably busy doing that. So yeah, I only seen Tanya.
Was Geis' mother there with him?
I couldn't. To be honest with you, I couldn't recognize his mom if she was there. But Chris Thompson was there, Anthony Lanier, Morgan Moses. Moses, I did not like. I seen Anthony Lanier, and I'm like, okay, that's a guy I play hoops with. Like he's not that tall, he's not that big of a person. And then you see Morgan Moses, and then you're like, okay, so imagine if I was a defensive lineman and I had to try and get around him, I'd lose every time. Like I don't understand how people beat him for a sack. Like I don't get it. So that's just one thing. Like I noticed, Mason Foster was there. It looks like I could play linebacker if I'm compared to him. So this is not like it's like sometimes you got to realize these are some average people. They play football. Like basketball players are one thing. They're all like 6'6", 6'7". But football players are sometimes your size. They're even shorter than you. I'm 5. Sometimes I sway between 5'11", 6 feet, but I'm more so on the 6 feet side. There's people that's playing football that's 5'9", 5'10". So
I think Chris Thompson could walk into your living room and you might not notice.
Yeah.
He's so average.
He could enter through the doggy door.
He's not that small. Come on, man.
So so that's all I'm saying. Like some of these people you see them in person, you realize like they're just the same size as you. They're not that bigger, but they're just elite athletes and professional athletes who take their craft pretty seriously. So it was fun to be around.
But Morgan Moses is that big.
Yeah, he's the one.
Oh, that's so interesting that it can fluctuate. I mean, it's really cool
to
that
see
you
if Ty
get.
Nsekhe is around. See how big he dwarfs Moses. So
yeah, he does.
Yeah, gosh, I can only imagine. Well, it's pretty awesome that you got the experience to go. I am a little bit jealous. Redskins,
thanks
if
to
you're
the
listening.
Redskins.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for that. And maybe you can get us 2 credentials next year, and I can fly back and go as well because it sounds.
We'll
like a
talk
great
off
time.
air about that.
All right, well, we will let you all get back to your lives. Thanks so much for joining us today. Make sure you're checking back thehogsty.com for all our new written content, as well as some videos, some social media stuff. For example, what Jamal just experienced at the draft day party. You can't get it anywhere else than right here at the Hogsty. See you guys next time.